will pick his 2022 time president challenged the NASA principals to unite to enhance their chances of forming the next government after he retires next year. The declaration knocks off Deputy President William Ruto from Uhuru's succession matrix. That is one of the topics that we will be discussing in the next hour. And of course, you don't have to miss that because our panelists are already on standby for that. And of course, One Kenya Alliance is on its deathbed. How? The One Kenya Alliance could be on the brink of collapse amid reports that the team has been rocked by mistrust and a tussle over the choice of flag bearer. Remember, some of the One Kenya Alliance are also leaning towards NASA. So how is it going to work out? Is it going to be One Kenya Alliance or NASA to be revived? We had that discussion yesterday, and of course, Raila Odinga hinting over the weekend that the pact and the unity between him and Kalonzo Musyoka and the NASA principles is still intact. That is a story that we'll also be discussing in the next hour. And the story of Jacome Dio, who died yesterday at the age of 54, also fleshed out. The story, his death was announced and was confirmed by ODM Director of Communications, Philip Etali. Let me take a break and give it over to Doreen.
All right, coming to the front page of the dailies that I have this morning, that is the Daily Nation and the People's Daily. How about to start with the PD? And the main header there is, I will not appoint the 6 judges, Uhuru maintains. This story well covered from page 2 all through 4 of the People's Daily. And this is again after the pressure that has been mounted on the president from various fronts, coming from also the former 2 chief justices, as well as just, lawyers and, various Kenyans here and there. But he still perhaps maintains his stance that he will not appoint the 6 judges. And we'll just be telling you why that is so when you get to the details in just a short while. Also, uproar over IEBC's 2022 degree order. You can remember that some time back there was that question of vying for various positions, especially in the government space. People really had to show their prowess in terms of education and how far they have reached, and the degree was one of them. But just this says, MCAs have moved to court to challenge the provision in the Elections Act, which says a contestant must have graduated from the university. They say it is discriminatory and bound to kill diversity. And even just before I continue, Vic, let me just rope you in on this one. There's always that question of how far have you reached in your education? What kind of papers do you have? Is it a diploma? Is it a degree? Now there's a decree that you must have a degree, but now MCAs are moving to court saying that this is actually discriminatory because it will hinder some people from getting such positions. I don't know what you think about this. Is it a question of I'm skilled enough so I can do it, or I have papers, so why not?
One of the debate that was there for the elected leaders to have degree was because they say that some of the legislative agenda in the floor of the different houses, either the county assembly or national assembly or in the Senate, are quite heavy, that they require they require a lot of experience in debating some of these issues. When you talk about matters to do with finance and of course the budget of the country, and a person is also nominated into one of the committee, and you don't have a degree or master's for that case, you'll find that you'll be lagging behind in terms of debate. So they want to have leaders who are well educated, who can actually articulate issues on the floor of the house, and that is a plus to a country in terms of making of laws and passing of the bills and having a proper debate. And well, it's a debate that many would say does not augur well with some people. They say that leadership is about wisdom. Yeah, leadership is about wisdom, and sometimes, it removes the fact of perhaps having to be in school, but also we cannot shy away the question of being in a class setting and acquiring those papers. That's equally very important. All right, so just a quick again look on how the PD looks like. There's also an, if I can say, a sad kind of story, which is also part of what we're going to discuss this morning, and this is based on a young lady, if I can mention. She was doing her master's at the UON, whereby a medic suicide lifts lead on depression. This is a postgraduate student who injected herself with anesthesia drugs at the parking lot of a hospital. She was battling depression.
and she commits suicide. Right now, cases of suicide are really high on the rise. Like I mentioned, this is also a conversation which we'll be having just in a short while, trying to find out the major causes of this kind of issues, depression, anxiety, and the whole idea behind mental health. However, we'll be targeting and focusing on the men. Also, again, the front page of the same paper, Kirubi mourned as a corporate man and a top philanthropist, where the president led the nation in remembering the billionaire businessman who passed on yesterday after a long battle with cancer. He was diagnosed with cancer. That was in 2017. He's been battling the disease since then, died at the age of 80. And also, police launched a manhunt for Kitui over claims. You can't remember that we had this story last week where there were claims of that is Muhisa Kitui. So he has been shying away from going to summons after he has been summoned various times. But these claims just include, if I can get it for you, this is in regards to a woman assault claim, which is one of those claims that he has been summoned upon, but he has not been appearing to court. So now police launch a manhunt for him. Very quickly, the front page of the Daily Nation, again, the same story concerning Chris Kirubi. Also find it here on the front page of the Daily Nation. Death of a business mogul. There were just the various things that he had been doing, and also how he really was so much active into matters business, also as well as politics and his contribution therein. On the sidebar, former Game MP Jacoyo Midiwo also died yesterday. So we could term it as a Black Monday. Perhaps his story has also been well highlighted via various articles there. And again, the story to do with judges does not also miss its way this morning on the front page of the Daily Nation. And the question is, what do you have on us? This is what judges are now asking, whereby Justice Odunga and Ngugi said they have no idea why the president has delayed their promotion to the second highest court. That is how the front page of the Daily Nation and the People's Daily looks like this morning.
All right, let me continue with the Star newspaper and give you a story here, how government has been paying billions for its land. The government has been paying billions of shillings in compensation for its own land in questionable payouts by the National Lands Commission. The compensation, which involves acquisition of land for public utilities, is allegedly a cash cow for well-connected individuals who fleece taxpayers. 2 years ago, the government spent 1.5 billion shillings of taxpayers' money to acquire the Ruaraka land that later turned out to belong to the public. So cases of National Lands Commission and the government having different land issues continue to raise a lot of questions there. In 2018, former NLC chairman Mohamed Swazuri was among 7 top government officials who were arrested over an allegedly fraudulent attempt to pay 2.8 billion shilling compensation for the standard gauge railway land. That is a story there. Now, IEBC says that they target 4 million eligible youths to vote in voter registration. They will be voting for the first time next year. Number of voters stood at 19.6 million in May. Over 4 million votes will be up for grabs as the electorate body sets out to register youths who are now eligible to elect their leaders. Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IBC chairman of Fletcher Bukati, said that the youth will be targeted in the latest registration campaign were not eligible to vote during the 2017 general elections. Politicians are now expected to retreat to their constituencies and strongholds to urge youth and young Kenyans to register as voters in order to claim a share of a huge vote. Now, before we take a break, let me say that Chebukati noted that some of the numbers registered voters stand at 19,687,885 as of May 21. All right. Let me just get a story, the story of Turkana Governor Josephat Nanok saying that the talks of security with him is just about to not go so well. And he says that he is about to not to concentrate on talks and withdraw from the talks with the KDF in terms of security. Let's just take a look at how the governor talked about the issue of security in the northern part of Kenya.
Mingi ambazo zinatukaba hapa na changamoto hizi zingine sio ya serikali yangu, ni changamoto ambaye serikali ya kitaifa inahitajika kuwa mstari wa mbele ikitatua, hasa shida ya usalama. Hakuna haja ya sisi kulialia mwaka nenda mwaka rudi. Shida ya usalama Turkana East, shida ya usalama Lokwamusin, shida ya usalama Lopii, shida ya usalama Kapedo, shida ya usalama kwa mipaka yetu ya kitaifa, na tuna wasimamizi wa usalama wa serikali ya kitaifa katika kaunti hii na wafanyi kazi yao vile wanatakiwa wafanye. Mwaka jana operesheni ya usalama iliwekwa kule Kapedo na kule TRT, mahali mabunduki ni mingi kuliko wale watu wako. Operation imewekwa, hawa watu wanapigana na askari, lakini kufika katikati wakasema wamemaliza operation. Lakini ule jangili wa bunduki kumaliza operation, kusimamisha, ameona ni kama amepewa license, kibali ya kuendelea kuua watu na kuibia watu na kufukuza watu manyumbani mwao. Sijasikia sauti ya chairman ya Security County Commissioner kwa ile uzoroti wa usalama na uwaji ya watu kule. Sijasikia sauti yake. Sijasikia ameenda kutembelea eneo ile kutuliza watu na kuhakikishia usalama. Serikali ya kitaifa lazima isimame ifanye kazi yake. Samahani, ni uchungu mingi nikizungumza haya kwa sauti kubwa, kwa sababu yameuma na hatuwezi kuendelea na maneno kama hii. Yale majadiliano tulikuwa naye na Wizara ya Ulinzi ya kuleta jeshi hapa kuchunga mpaka, na Waturkana walipeana ardhi sehemu mahali watakuja mpaka hata hapa Lodwar mahali itakuwa headquarter. Sisi tukiwa viongozi wa siasa wa Turkana mliochagua, tunasema na tutaelezea waziri wa usalama wa defense, we want to solve the solution for insecurity in Turkana.
Absolutely. Issues with security is an emotive issue, and that is Turkana Governor Josephat Nanok there. And the issue of security in the north and part of Rift Valley has been a very hard nut to crack for the security agencies. And the sooner it's resolved, the better. All right. So, Doreen, before that story, IBC says that it targets 4 million eligible youths to vote in the voter registration, and now it's time for the leaders or politicians to go back to their constituencies to vote. The question is, how do you think it's going to pan out? Do we have youth more ready to vote in terms of, are they encouraged to vote, or do they have that drive to face the next general election?
Right now, I think where we sit, especially as it pertains to matters election, from my perspective, I really don't feel like there's that drive. I've seen that article that they're targeting about 4 million Kenyan youths for that particular exercise. But you see, it just goes back to that the period that was, the tenure that was. We voted, you know, perhaps young people voted, those who voted. We didn't quite see, or they didn't quite see what they voted for. I mean, we keep talking about our leaders and what we need them to do for us. Then always there's that narrative of they only come after 5 years. They only come after 5 years. Hile barabara ya pale kwenyu, you know, it still looks as how it was. So those are some of the things that just kills the drive. I really don't think it's a question of young people don't want to vote. It's just a question of, if I'm voting, what am I seeing in return? Yeah.
But either way, in terms of being a civic duty, it's important for you as a Kenyan to participate in that election. So once that drive is on and active, make sure that you have your vote register, your voters card ready for 2022 general election and stand to be counted when that time comes. All right, let's take a break. We'll be right back with more after this.
Bwana Motiso, pikipiki yako ndio hii. Uko shwani yangu. Hii pikipiki ni unakumbuka uliekelea the lowest unique bid yako ilikuwa ngapi? 18 shillings. Na unajua kuendesha hii gari? Kidogo. Haya, kitoko yako shika helmet, kifungu yako chomoka na mali yako.
Kujiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
The greatest rally in the world is back in Kenya. Catch all the action of WRC Safari Rally live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1 from 24th to 27th June. See the world's best drivers navigate their machines on Kenya's rough terrain at breakneck speeds. Experience the thrills, adrenaline, drama and excitement as man and machine do battle. Don't miss out. WRC Safari Rally, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Max is your brother.
He's not. He's my stepbrother, and that will not stop me from erasing him from my life, Mother. Don't tell me you're going to stop me now.
Oh, yes,
Come on,
yes,
now.
I do.
Anything suspicious?
No, fortunately nothing, but we shouldn't get careless.
No.
That means the girl that Jorge is in love with is Juliana.
I'm sorry, Mother, but your son has to die, too.
Ms. Helen Shiri, formerly of Warembo Bila Makeup Rally Team and Head Girl Racing. The moment I'm in organization for this Safari Rally, I'll be the event secretary. We are really supporting the ladies in Safari, the ones that have entered. I'm hoping they're going to give the men a run for the sport they are better known in. We've really been waiting for this for a long time. We've worked hard on making the preps ready. All we are asking the Kenyans is, if you're not able to come to the spectator stage, you'll be able to follow the whole rally in KBC Channel 1.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Mrs. Ayad, what you're saying is...
I mean, from now on, you better cut all contacts with Xiao Ai.
In the same room with you this late?
What's wrong? What are you doing, Xiao Tian?
Helping you, Guo.
Get back in the car now, young man.
I want to help.
What are you doing?
Helping you push the car.
You're not helping me, you're just sick.
Next on.
Tumemsua watu watatu. Asidhani kazi stem atatoboa. Guy. That's all you can say.
Jazz anajua.
Jazz will be jazzed about it. See what I did there?
Let her through.
Unajua masida yetu ilianza ili wakati nyo mwanamke alikujaga kwa maisha yetu. Mabe yetu sasa ikaanza kwenda kukurukakara. Mnaweza tuhitaji?
Sana.
Tiffany, I need to reach Chris.
What will happen to Glenn and Eric?
Well, that's my business.
Good, as Chris is mine.
Nancy, you know you're the mother of chaos. We are here because of you.
No, we are here because of your identity crisis.
Si dwe. Mimi Nancy haujai nikulisha wala kukulisha watoto wangu wala kuwasomesha.
Are you sure?
things going on in this studio. But anyway, it's time for our first conversation this Tuesday, and being Health Tuesday, we definitely want to divulge to matters mental health, and also being Men's Mental Health Month. That is what is going to be our focus of discussion this morning, just trying to break down how and why men are prone to mental illness. My guest this morning is George Omolo, who is a psychologist at Chiromo Hospital Group. Good morning, George.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Easy, relaxed now?
Very.
Awesome. Before we go to the whole aspect of trying to understand, the mental illness, especially surrounding men, how about you begin with this story, which is on the papers this morning, on the PD and also on the Daily Nation. I believe it also cuts across different papers. This is the story of the young woman, depressed Nairobi doctor takes on life at parking. I mean, just while you're having this conversation before we came on air, we were saying the way she was in a prestigious university, driving her own car. She was a doctor, a pediatrician. So what really could drive someone of such a caliber to doing such kind of a thing?
Yeah, there are a number of questions that would come in your mind, and you'll keep on asking yourself, like, she's having a good job, kinda, and then she's doing a good course, but again in a prestigious university. But what are these things that maybe she could have been going through? And this is an individual that could have been tagged as a person who is strong, a person who is mentally stable, mentally fit, a person who has made it. Yeah, that's a good term. And then she's coming to a point and she's feeling like, maybe I'm not ready, like, to share out what I'm going through. And if I'm going to share it out, so who is going to listen to me? And yet I'm the person to help out. And people will say that even doctors are never breaking down, because we need them. And if a doctor is breaking down, so who is going to help us? So this is an individual that maybe in one way or the other she could have gone through some stigma, and she was feeling like, maybe I'm not comfortable kind of sharing about myself, speaking out what I'm going through. And it could be a society or a culture that she's been growing up in. Maybe she's come to a point where it's never about a person that is well exposed in a position like that just to speak out and say that, hey, mimi napitia changamoto, mimi napitia 1, 2, and 3. It's about kufunguka. She was not able to open up. And basically that is what now we are urging each and every person to do. That if at all you're going through a situation that it's hard for you to handle and it's weighing you mentally, why can't we just open up, speak out,
and talk about it?
And we'll
be coming to that just in a short while, because you can talk about it's better to speak out and funguka and open up, but not everyone can be in that kind of space. But let's go back to our center of conversation this morning, which is just trying to find out the issue concerning mental illness, specifically about men. And let's start with June being Men's Mental Health Month. As a man, what's the significance of just having a whole month dedicated to men's mental health?
Wow. I would say from 1st June to the last day of June, actually men should be seen everywhere, like, hey, these are strong beings. Like, we are going to speak out what we are going through. Did you know that men rarely share their issues? Why? Because of the masculinity thing. People tend to feel like if George is going to share out his issues, that, hey, I'm breaking down, I'm not doing well, people will feel that, hey, this man is weak. And society again makes it more hard again that in your position you cannot even speak out what you're going through. And so it's like the ladies are looking into us and they're feeling like, you see, these are people that needs to be hardened enough, right?
Strong enough.
They need to be strong enough. And that's why I brought it earlier when I was telling you, ni wakati wa kufunguka. Like, tufunguke. Let's open up and speak it, that, okay, I'm not going to break down alone. I think I will need to wish and share 1, 2, and 3 with another person who might be going through this. But again, do you know that men don't share out their things easily? And men will never cry easily. They only cry when it is raining, so that you will not see our tears coming down.
Boys don't cry.
Okay. Maybe boys cry, but men
don't cry.
Men don't cry.
Okay.
But why? Why are we saying so? We've been nurtured that way, that whenever a woman is going to see tears rolling down your cheeks, and they'll feel like, okay, this is a weaker man. but mental health does not understand the concept of being weak.
And some would even cry in front. They would perhaps want to break down, and they will just leave you there.
Exactly.
Because they do not want you to see them breaking down. And there's nothing wrong with breaking down.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with breaking down. And you see, when now we've been taught that we don't need to break down now, this is a situation where somebody will start struggling with stress and depression, anxiety, and by the end of the day, only to realize that there's some mental health illness that are coming up, and you cannot be able to understand what you're going through.
Yeah.
And the next thing that will be happening, you'll be hearing to some news that like what had been you had discussed in the newspapers, that this person committed suicide, that this person did 1, 2, and 3, and you cannot be able to understand because you've been seeing this person driving a Porsche car, you've been seeing this person having a good family, and a family that you can admire everything that is doing and a good job. But then you'll come and listen to some news that, hey, George committed suicide.
And you wonder how, when we were here having a conversation the other time or something of the
and
sort.
that's it.
All right. Now let's talk about the stereotypes surrounding men. Aside from the issue that, or the thought that men don't cry, which other stereotypes surrounds men, and how is it of negative impact?
Oh, wow, that's nice. Every society has got different stereotypes about men. One, I will say that men are being seen on the masculinity side, that these are the individual that needs to give us shoulder to lean on, or rather shoulder to cry on. Like, these are the people that needs to extend their hands for us to wipe our tears. Like, okay, maybe ladies will say that. Yes. And so we are looking into them and we are feeling like, hey, if I'm going to see a man crying, then nitakuwa naona nini?
Which shoulder will I cry on?
Which shoulder am I going to cry on when I want to cry? Mwanaume kijidume analia kivipi? Inaanza lini? And so it becomes so hard. And then men, we have come to a point at some times we usually feel like even going and speaking out what I'm going through with another man, it's an issue altogether. Why? Because I look at that man and I'll feel like, if I'm going to share out what I'm going through, atanichukulia aje. Not like ladies. A lady will just pull you up kwambie mimi na niko na hii changamoto, tafadhali usiponisaidia leo, believe me you, hakuna mtu mwenye atanisaidia. But men, no, they're just going to sit on that landmine. Let me call it, they are going to sit on that grenade. Watalipuka hapo na wako sawa.
And expect something to happen. Because
community has made them to feel like, no, we cannot talk. If you are going to talk, who is going to listen to us? Yeah. But those are just the things that people have just made up their minds to that. Yeah, the stereotypes that you need not to speak on what you're going through. What are we going to do?
Kind of way to look at it.
Exactly.
Okay. Then perhaps what needs to be done to not have those kind of thinking or stereotypes, because I mean, at the end of the day, as much as talk about how men may need to be strong and all of that, they're still human beings. They still have emotions, they still have feelings. It does not negate any fact of someone could have a feeling, could have an emotion, they could be down,
What we need to do, but before we go to what we need to do, I'll go back to your point.
Okay.
We men, we have emotions, right?
Yeah.
And anything that comes to your emotions make you to react in another way or the other. And so we will not say that we are beings that are dead emotionally. Anything that hits your emotion, it's what triggers your mental health as well. What is it that needs to be done? One, as men, we need to accept that we are vulnerable beings, which is okay. And we have to accept that at some point, we can break down. Not that we are needed to be there every time feeling like George is strong, George is okay. Yeah. We need to accept that we can break down. And once we have accepted that, now we need to look into it and say, we want to normalize the mental health. So that a person who is seeing George stressed up is not going to say that, hey, naona kama huyu George anakuwa cheesy. So that we normalize the whole aspect of mental health, that you can easily reach out to a therapist, you can easily
and don't
reach
feel
out
shy
to
about it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you make a person feel like I'm bold and I accept myself that this, if I cannot handle it alone, what is it that I'm going to do? I'll walk to a facility. I'm going to reach out to somebody. I'm going to reach out to a therapist. We are going to talk our issues. But in rare occasions, will you listen to men like just sit down and just sharing some tough heart issues, kind of heart-to-heart issues. It's either I'm thinking of getting this new car. I'm thinking of building this new apartment. I'm thinking of doing 1, 2, and 3. It's like the economic development. But what is it that ladies will be sharing on the other end?
Manze kuna hii deni imekaa tu.
And
issue ikakama kwa kichwa. And you see at that point, you're not even close to this person, but it becomes so easier to talk to them.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's, okay, you know, wow, well said. You need to actually speak up.
Yeah.
All right, now let's come to the issue of culture, because also from your conversation, from what you're saying, rather, I'm thinking a lot of community, where we stay, you know, maybe it's a culture and all of that, because also the stereotypes are formed from the different cultures that we come from. What exactly is the place of culture when it comes to men's mental illness or health as a whole?
Wow, that's very deep. The place of culture. I will talk from African perspective.
Because we are Africans.
Actually, I'm not African. I'm a true African.
Not just an African.
Yes.
Okay.
A true African. Talking from African culture, our culture has made us men to feel like it's us the reference point. Yeah. That small kid, if the neighbor is going to beat this kid, what is it that this kid is going to say? And they're feeling like this daddy man is a person who is strong and he can solve almost everything. So culture has made us to feel like we just need to be strong. We just need to be people that we can handle anything that comes in. And you know what? That place of culture is what makes men even to be more vulnerable.
Okay.
Yeah.
How so?
It is because anytime we want to make culture to be a reference to whatever things that we are going to, we are going through, then you will find that a man will not be comfortable to share out, or rather to express what he's going through. Let me give you an example. I'm trying to imagine this man that is struggling with some issues at home, like let me call it quotes in quotes domestic violence, and this is a man that would say that you see there are men that wanaweza kuwa wanapigwa pale nyumbani, but again now the person beating them is the one screaming, so feel like the one screaming ndio ni mwenye anapigwa. So this man cannot be able like to share it out. Try to imagine if you're going to share it out to some friends pale mtaani, and they'll be like, kwani wewe unapigwa na mwanamke?
Aje sasa.
Inakuaje? How do you think that man will handle that thing? He'll be silent on that issue, never speaking it out. What is it that is going to happen? Depression itakuwa inaingia pale. Sasa even this lady that I'm having in this house, how is she going to help me? What about my children? Am I going to be helpful? Am I going to be relevant to my kids in this house? And if I'm not going to be relevant to my kids in this house, what is it that I'm going to do by the end of the day as a man? So culture, again, it comes in a negative way to zip their mouth. Like, wewe nyamaza tu with what you're going through. Nyamaza, na unyamaze tu kimya tu. And that's why now we are turning culture upside down, and we are saying that yes, we accept that it's mental health month, right? Lakini tufunguke. Yes, wanaume tufunguke. We are not going to cry when it is raining. We just want to cry openly. Just nisaidie tu na shoulder yako tunililie tu kidogo tu. We are not going to wait for that rain. What if you are going to go to a place that it's never raining all through the year? Tutaliaje? Are we going to cry in the bathroom, and yet some of us do not have showers? Itakuwaje? So we want to do it like openly. Feel us. And that's the thing.
Right. Now, again, we had that convo a bit off air in regards to this men's mental health month. And I was just telling you of some statistics that I read, whereby the month began in 1992, and up till now, statistics still show that 70% of suicide cases still it's men. And I was telling you of how in my head I'm just thinking, this is like 20 plus years. Why do men still form a bigger percentage of suicide cases regardless? What could be the reason?
I'd shared it earlier. Men, let's not say men, but let's start it from what you said about 1992 to this time, and it could be approximately 29 years down the line, right? And men are still leading in that percentage.
Yes.
I would wish you understand that about mental health issues, everything falls on an equal platform. But now, the other gender now, women tend to express themselves easily, and they can speak out what they are going through. Actually, they've been nurtured that way.
To speak.
Yeah, because women, I would say, I love them so much because they are talking beings. They can speak their minds openly. But as men, we have like let me call it a farmer stand where we are not exposed to like talking things any hourly easily, and this makes them to reach to a point even when they are breaking down, they are not going to speak it out at whatever case, and that is what will explain why the suicide rate tends to be so higher on the men's side than on the female side. Why? That is the stand. And if you are going to speak it out, what is it that is going to happen?
Utanichukulia aje.
Utanichukulia aje. But this time around, we've decided that we're going to speak out. So.
Okay. You're going to speak out.
Yes.
Again, also let's talk a bit about the men under the age of 44.
Yeah.
Still, they will say men under that age still forms those that would have depression or even commit suicide still fall under that age bracket.
Yeah.
What is so significant about men under the age of 44 that they still have to form a bigger chunk of either those that would suffer depression, anxiety, and altogether go ahead and commit suicide?
Wow. Nice one. Have you ever heard this statement about life begins at 40?
Yes, they would say for women it's like at 30 or something.
And life begins at 40. So if you're not yet there, basically you're kind of trying to do your jogging, exercise, and everything, so that by the time you're reaching 40, actually you're so well equipped. So we tend to look into it that we want to invest so much that when we are reaching 40 now, we want to start enjoying the things that we've done. The things that we did made to put in place.
You worked for?
The things that you worked for. That's a good term.
Yeah.
So now we are reaching this 40 plus, the 44 now coming down, and we have the expectations, right? The unmet expectations. Remember, you've tried looking for a job, you've tried looking for working things to help you gain some living and everything.
Yeah.
But then you're coming to this age and you're realizing that, hey, I'm not yet there. What is it that is going to happen? And when I'm coming to realize that I'm not yet there, then let me look into what my friends are doing. And I'll start mentioning some of my friends. This person is now working with this company. This person is now owning this company. This person is the CEO. This individual is this and this and this and this. And you want to compare yourself with those people. What is it that is going to happen?
Very quickly think, where am I not moving? Where am I not making moves?
Why am I not making a move?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Kwani mimi tu ndio nimestationiwa hapo.
Yeah.
What is it that is going to happen?
What's so different with me?
You'll start feeling useless, and you'll start feeling like I'm not at par with my age mates. I think I'm a nuisance. I think I'm a loser, and there's nobody who is just going to be there for me to... Okay, there is never some manna that is going to come from heaven, alafu itakuangukia hapo chini, or some millions that will come, and then you'll start developing yourself like...
Very quickly.
Yeah,
so
it's
again,
never
also
that way.
There are just so many issues surrounding also, those kind of statistics.
Yeah.
Now, George, as we finish up, I would just like to read one comment. This is from Kevin, who says that men are willing to talk in relation to mental health. However, few are willing to listen to them. Quickly, your reactions on that. So it's not a question of a team. I don't want to talk. Talk, open up to Funguke. But he says that few are willing to listen to men.
Okay.
Quick reactions on that.
Why are few are willing to listen to men? Men, by the time they are talking the deeper things in their hearts, even the person who is ready and willing to listen to them will have already given up. Men need time. They need time.
To just understand?
In short, Kevin is saying, I'm not going to go to that therapist and say that, hey, I'm struggling with mental health issues, I'm struggling with stress and everything. No. Because they'll start like watachapaka around hivi, they'll rotate and rotate and rotate, and by the time they're bringing this issue, even this therapist will have come to a point and he will be like, so what's the challenge?
Wow.
That's what Kevin is saying there.
I mean, it's a lot. I feel like we should get more time to have this conversation.
Okay.
But again, altogether, thank you so much for your time. At least demystifying some of the issues, stereotypes surrounding, and maybe what more or what we need to do, at least to move from that kind of bracket and reduce the percentages and the numbers. Thank you so much, George.
Wow.
That has been George Omolo, my guest this morning, who's a psychologist at Chiromo Hospital Group, just talking to us about men's mental health. But the show is not yet done. We still have plenty more on the other side. Stay with us.
Bwana Motiso, pikipiki yako ndio hii. Uko shwani yangu. Hii pikipiki ni unakumbuka uniekelea the lowest unique bid yako ilikuwa ngapi? 18 shillings. Na unajua kuendesha hii gari? Kidogo. Haya, kitoko yako shika helmet, kifungu yako chomoka na mali yako.
Kujiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Next on.
They're just killing us, killing us, killing us. Because of the color of our skin. They're just killing us, killing us.
And I just make the perfect melodies. Kisses, kisses, kisses.
Very spiritual, say man a real Rasta man. Rasta rude boy. This man a rebel.
Man go giving Rastafari, but the easy man is kiss him. Babylon don't got no flow on them now.
True love, and it feels like freedom at last.
My name is Stella Masharia of the Warembo Bila Makeup All Ladies Rally Team. And for this particular event, I'll be volunteering at the WRC Secretariat office just to keep the hope and passion alive of all the ladies who will be watching this event. We have home advantage, so kick dust and make sure that you position Kenya right where we want it to be. And remember to tune in to KBC Channel 1 Live, Radio Taifa to catch the action from wherever you are. Warembo Bila Makeup, Head Girl Racing, Haraka Mamas, and the other teams that have packed the cars home. I'm sure we'll be back to just make the ladies teams great and more once again. We wish you nothing but the best. The champions who are also coming, Karibu Kenya.
Welcome back. This is Good Morning Kenya. Of course, you're still also right in time. We are ready to do this, and as always, every Tuesday, it's people and politics. And as always, these are issues that affect you as a citizen. And what are some of the steps that you have to take to correct and to rectify and to make adjustments on matters you think is important to you and I as general as a country. My name is Victor Low. You can get me on social media at Victor Low. We are starting this particular debate for the next 1 hour. As always, you can send in your comments, your questions, or your contribution, and we will be sampling them during and at the end of this particular program. And in studio, I'm being joined by Dr. Joseph Rotich here, who is joining me live in studio. And of course, I'll be joined by Joseph Simeha via Zoom shortly, as well as Dr. David Masanga, who is also joining me via Zoom shortly. But before then, let me start with you, Dr. Rotich. And first of all, let me give you a minute to, as always, send your message of condolence to the late Dr. Chris Kirubi, of course, a senior citizen who died at the age of 80, a businessman, as well as former Game MP Jakoyo Midio.
Thank you so much, Olo. Let me take this opportunity to send my sincere condolence to the family, friends, and relatives of Mr. Kirubi. I think in Kenya we have lost a great man, a great industrialist, a philanthropist, and a kind-hearted person. I think we will lose him, because he is also a great man of encouragement, especially to young enterprising units. Let me also send my message of condolence to the family of Washington Chakoyo Midiwo, who actually passed on again. He has been a great debater, a great man who stood by his party, ODM, for many years. He was just a man that he has made game, a political place to be admired. And over the weekend, I also had a privilege to visit some families whose members actually passed on. I have Mr. Geter, whose burial is today. We send a message of condolence to them, and we say we are together in the spirit. Otherwise, the weekend has been the most hectic weekend, and we want to thank God for this day.
Absolutely. We are here, and things happened over the weekend, and of course, we are in a new week, and we also expect a lot to happen. Let me just start by opening this debate as we wait for Dr. Masanga and Joseph Simeka to join us shortly. We talked about this issue last week.
Yes.
The president, the appointment of 6 judges, we delved into it deeply last week, and that's exactly what I want us to talk about right now. But before then, let me just welcome Dr. David Masanga, who is already here with us via Zoom. Dr. good morning from wherever you're watching from, and good morning to the show.
Good morning, Kenyans. Good morning, Africa. Good morning, all of you in the studio.
Amen.
Condolences to the people of Kenya for having lost 2 great and other people who have died as a result of God's will, because we have nothing to say other than that.
Absolutely.
On the question of my condolences to Dr. Chris Kirubi and to Jakoyo Midiwo, both of them, I know them personally.
Yes.
I knew Dr. Chris Kirubi in 1980 when we came to Kenya, and we stayed in Intercontinental Hotel with my president, Dr. Milton Obote. There was an office of Kenatico, where he was the boss of Kenatico in that Intercontinental Hotel. And that is when I knew Dr. Kirubi as the general manager of that office, whom I went down as a PA to ask for taxis. And from that time, Kirubi came and said, no, I would drive the ministers myself. He drove us, took us to Carnival. And this is the history to Carnival. That's one. On Midiwo's brother, whom I cannot mention here, the elder brother was my commander. And I want to tell you, I have sentiments. Midiwo was in Kampala. He was a younger man when we were already in service. May his soul, may their soul rest in peace, especially that they have gone at an hour when this country needs such people to speak and bring peace.
Yeah, yes.
One thing that I remember about Dr. Kirubi is that during the ICC cases, And as you know, ICC ending tomorrow, Victor.
Yes.
Yes.
He found me in Addis Ababa, and I had stayed in a hotel. My hotel bill was killing me. I was on the table trying to call someone to come and clear my bill in one of the hotels called one of those hotels. What is the hotel? This hotel is very powerful hotel. And Dr. Kirubi said, what type of bill is this? How much is it? He took me to the reception, and he told the general manager, Radisson Blue, yes, Radisson Blue, general manager. He told him, how much is the bill? The manager looked at the computer. Kirubi said, this guy has done a lot for Kenya. He's struggling for our people to get out of ICC.
All right, yes.
All right, yes.
Bring me the bill. Kirubi paid my bill.
Okay.
He even gave me extra to stay if I wanted. May their souls rest in peace.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Daktari. If Smeha is ready.
I'm here. I've been here all along.
All right. Okay. Good to see you. Good morning. It's going to be prudent enough to also give you a minute just to send a message of condolence to Dr. Kirubi's family and, of course, the late Honorable Midiwo's family as well. Go ahead.
Yes, my message, my condolences to the two families and other families of many people who unfortunately have ones due to various reasons, due to COVID-19 and many other reasons. Just one word on Jacoya Midewa. I mean, a lot of tributes have been paid to him. One thing I had a lot of admiration for him and made friends with him about, chatted with him a lot about, is the fact that he's one of the few people close to Raila Odinga who sincerely spoke about the need for succession planning in ODM.
Yes.
A lot of people around Raila Odinga, Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga, are so afraid to talk about that subject, that topic of succession planning. And in my opinion, that is one of ODM's weakest spots, lack of succession planning. Midiwo was courageous, sincere enough to very honestly and very sincerely speak about the need for succession planning within ODM. Unlike other people who are close to Raila, but they are so afraid to talk about that issue of succession planning. May their souls rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it's good enough to give our message of condolence more so to the senior citizens. Of course, Jacob Midiwo, we can never downplay their effort that they did, they made to make this country a great nation. All right, so let's just get into the real debate. Gentlemen, we talked about it here last week. President Uhuru Kenyatta, the issue of 6 judges, and now, yesterday the president said, to appoint 6 judges? No way. He said that his conscience is clear why he declined to appoint the 6 judges. Let me start with you, Dr. Otiche, in studio. We talked about this last week, and it's like we just told the president what to do.
According to the trend of things, since the 6 judges actually gave their deliberation, declaring PPI null and void, it never went down. Very good with many people. But as if that is not what I'm referring. You know what the president has actually expressed about the 6 judges, that they had integrity issues, and he had this message prior. When the 6 judges actually had to undergo the interview. And in this case, I feel this information that the NIS was supposed to. They were supposed to have prepared their information during the time of the interview, so that the judges could be able, the GSC would have been able to, to have the intelligent information about the people they were interviewing. And since this thing. What His Excellency said is that he got the information from the NIS, actually, of the integrity issues that these guys are actually facing. And being being at the center of upholding the constitution and the law of the land. And his conscience could not allow him to proceed to appoint him, or rather elevate him to the position of the judge, or the judges of the Court of Appeal. And in this case, this is something we had realized. And of course, understanding the position of the presidency and his verdict. With the prior knowledge about the people he was going to, he was going to elevate to the position of the judges of Court of Appeal. I think it was a foregone conclusion within us last week when we were discussing that the president may not give in, and it is actually very clear that he has not. He never gave in about the whole scenario. But one thing that is one thing, Wanaulo, is that the 6 judges who have been charged within the Court of public opinion, they are suffering in the cold. I think they deserve to be told what are these integrity issues that they are actually facing. We need to be told that this is what you did, because it is not only them, it is their families, them, their spouses. These are great personalities that we are talking about, and they are also the sitting judges. We are not talking about the people who are at home. We are talking about the people who are at work, even as we are talking today. So in this case, with such a type of integrity issues being on their forehead, I think it is a high time that these people should be taken to court. Let them be told what are these integrity issues that they are facing, so that they can be, they will defend themselves. They will have time to say, no, these are the things that these are the allegations, and that we know not of what has actually transpired as per what the information that is getting. Otherwise, as things are now, although it is very dangerous that we have those people in their offices when the tag has already been pasted on them, the tag of integrity issue. What are we saying? I think it should have been very good if His Excellency the President would say, now these guys should step aside as the judges of the High Court, so that they can go to court to defend themselves. Otherwise, as long as they are sitting judges, as we are talking now, I think it compromises the allegation.
Yes. The question is, you brought in a very important aspect there, and let me just bring in you, Joseph Simeha. The judges now, their fate is as good as sealed, and the president says that he's not going to appoint them. So what next for them then?
Yeah, thank you very much, Victor. Even with the full benefit of doubt that I wish to give the president, that is Uhuru Kenyatta, again, I will remind you of what I told you rings in my mind all the time. I'm speaking about public affairs. It's something Dr. William Mutunga, CJ Emeritus, said. Even the scum of this earth, have their rights. The moment we resort to summary decisions like those, even with good reasons, we are casting aspersions on our institutions and our processes, especially in the management of public affairs. Those are extremely important, so that they may entrench predictability, they may entrench fairness, subjecting people to due process. Even if you catch, the reason, let me just say that, rephrase that. The reason we say, for example, catch thieves and muggers and so on, and want to beat them on the spot and kill them, is because of lack of confidence in our institutions. It's lack of confidence in processes that should take care of those kinds of people. But even when we want to demonstrate confidence in processes, in institutions, like the judiciary, the Judicial Service Commission, like the commissions of inquiry, like whatever, name it, then we have to test those institutions. We have to test those processes. We have to subject these judges to those institutions and processes, only to be fair. And especially when we have solid evidence that they've committed certain offenses, that they have integrity issues, we should please commit them to the responsible institutions and processes, and not make summary decisions on their character, however solid the evidence we have. I began by saying I would like to give Uhuru Kenyatta or the presidency benefit of doubt. And the presidency, unfortunately, we hope against hope, but the presidency ought to be that institution that leads in giving public institutions confidence of citizens. What is the fate of these judges? I think it's agony, Victor. It's complete agony, because these judges have a right to fairness, have a right to due process. They, I know that I have friends who have had, say, including a colleague on this show, Matsanga, who says they should just quietly quit. But you know, the problem with quitting is you quit with very serious and substantiated allegations over your head. How do you feel about that? How about your family? How about the people who have appeared to you as litigants? How about colleague judges and magistrates? Generally, just how about society, how society views you? That is the guy who had to leave the judiciary because of very serious allegations from NIS. It's not fair to them. Even if there is solid evidence of their commission of crimes or serious integrity issues, they should please be subjected to due process.
All right. Dr. Masanga, we talked about it exactly a week ago, and the president said yesterday that his conscience is quite clear. He's not going to appoint the 6 judges. So the question is, has Articles 166 subsection 2 taken effect?
Yes. All my colleagues here are speaking. Don't waste your saliva. It's over. Look at, not because we don't want people to be cleared, not because people don't want people to go to court. Dr. Rotich and Simeha, whether you go to Angel Gabriel and sing and come back and say hallelujah, all of us. Section Article 166. You know, all the lawyers in Kenya are fearing to mention this article. They are now blaming Uhuru Kenyatta, but they are not blaming the framers of the Constitution. Anybody who has studied constitutionalism like me, I am even very happy in my heart that I see the framers of the Constitution made it very clear that under Article 166 2C, after the JSC has done its work, they again came and placed an article, a section C, that now empowers the president to open up the worms that are within the JSC. It is not the work of the president to send information. Read it unless you went to a wrong school. But if you went to a good school, the JSC appoints, vets, interviews, and sends to the president. Before 166, that's their role. The president has nothing, and I want to repeat here, has nothing to do with what the JSC are doing. Even if he has got representatives there, the president cannot influence. And I repeat here, you will hear this coming in the judgment sometime. The president cannot go to JSC or and influence the JSC that don't appoint Mutunga or Dunga, don't appoint. No. The Constitution covers the president under 168. You wait for the names to arrive in the State House in your bed, in your sitting room. Then you look at them. But if the president makes a mistake, Victor, to go to the AJSC and ask Professor Mugenda that, you know, I have this. No, people will go to court and say, you are interfering with the work of JSC.
Yes.
2, Article 266, as Article 166, 2C. Semeha, your tongue finds it sour to read it. Every time, why don't you read it?
I will.
Why don't you recite it? If you can't recite it, let me recite it for you without looking there. It says, after all this, the president will appoint judges, a chief justice, deputy chief justice, and they will appoint judges. Those judges must have a degree from a recognized university. 2, those judges must have worked somewhere with experience within the Commonwealth. And the 2C, it goes further. Upon looking at the high moral character 1, integrity. 3, impartiality. The guy can now breathe fire and assign after checking your integrity. The president is an overall machinery of the state which governs and directs the public life of every citizen of Kenya. The president, Victor, give me 1 minute. The president cannot appoint a terrorist to be on or appoint. I'm not saying any of the judges is a terrorist, but I'm saying, imagine there was a terrorist who works with Al-Shabaab and the information has come to the president's knowledge, because Semeha and Dr. Rotich, none of us has any information that the National Intelligence Services give to the president. But imagine such information comes. The president has told you, and yesterday he said, in summary, he said he got the information and gave it after 2 years ago to the chairman of JSC. Who was the chairman? Who was the chairman, Semeha? The chairman was the quarreling Chief Justice. Yes. The paranoid Chief Justice, former Chief Justice, Maraga. And he has Maraga equally admitted on his show. And you know, the biggest thing is...
Okay, all right.
He has admitted on one of the shows that indeed he received a list and he received the evidence. So why are you blaming Uhuru for? Show me why you are blaming Uhuru for. Uhuru gave them evidence and said, I'm not appointing to Maraga. And Maraga has told us on the Citizen TV.
Doctor, hold on. Dr. Rotich has...
I think...
okay, yes.
I think, Olo...
Let Rotich... Why should I hold on?
Dr. Masanga,
I don't need information.
Dr. Masanga, no. All right, go ahead.
There are two things that we want to uncover. What Maraga said is that even out of the list that was submitted of those who were regarded as having integrity issues, it is not a list that is contained in the 6 judges.
Yes.
So in this case,
the names were altered.
The names were altered.
Okay.
So in this case, even altering the names,
Victor
can attract integrity issues.
Thank you.
The original people who are mentioned as having integrity issues are not the people who are appearing in the list now. That is where the problem is. Another thing again, we are not saying that His Excellency the President did the wrong thing. But what we are just saying is that these people should have been allowed to be
my case. I am stating my case.
Dr. Masanga, you had your time. Dr. Masanga, you had your time.
I did not finish my time. You interject.
I'll come to you, Dr. Ari. There's no problem.
He interjected and is misleading my point.
No. Integrity requires that you also listen.
And again, what the argument is, and even as Mother Garu actually post, it said that you cannot be a charge and at the same time an accuser. And that the role of the JSC was to interview and vet the 41 charges.
Yes.
This was the time when all these integrity issues was supposed to be given to the JSC, so that even as they were vetting, behind their minds they knew that the background of these people had some questionable integrity issues.
So you blame the JSC?
I don't blame the JSC, because the JSC, they have done their work and they have done it well. And in this case, what I don't know is whether they had prior knowledge about the accusation or the integrity issues that are before the 6 charges. So in this case, what I'm saying, Lord, the process at which it has been done, His Excellency the President did his job. And he did his job according to the information that he received from the NIS. But at what level was this information supposed to be given?
Right.
It was supposed to be given at the level of JSC, so that as they were making their verdict, if they were vetting the 41 charges, they were vetting against the backdrop of information that they were getting from the NSC and the public.
Yeah, exactly.
So in this case, the public had given the information, the NIS has given the information, and then the JSC should have been prior information or prior information before the vetting.
Okay.
So that as the vetting continues, these allegations will have actually come up. And of course, these charges would have been prevented, not to the level where they are now. In this case, as my brother Joseph Simeka said, these people have been treated unfairly.
Okay,
they were supposed to have been given a hearing.
Just hold on that. Just hold on that. I know you have got a lot to say in terms of they were supposed to be given time. You know, the JSC, they were supposed to have prior knowledge before sending the names to the president for appointment. But just hold on that. Dr. Masanga and Joseph Simeka, just stick around because we just need to pay bills, of course. The debate has just started and we are going to delve deeper. I know Dr. Masanga has so much to say. Dr. Masanga, I will give you 10 minutes, I promise. But before that, let's take a break. We'll be right back. Okay? Okay.
Bwana Motiso, pikipiki yako ndio hii. Uko shwani yangu. Hii pikipiki ni unakumbuka uniekelea the lowest unique bid yako ilikuwa ngapi? 18 shillings. Na unajua kuendesha hii gari? Kidogo. Haya, kitoko yako shika helmet, kifungu yako chomoka na mali yako.
Kujiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
The greatest rally in the world is back in Kenya. Catch all the action of WRC Safari Rally live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1 from 24th to 27th June. See the world's best drivers navigate their machines on Kenya's rough terrain at breakneck speeds. Experience the thrills, adrenaline, drama and excitement as man and machine do battle. Don't miss out. WRC Safari Rally, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Mrs. Ayad, what you're saying is... I mean, from now on, you better cut all contacts with Xiao Ai.
In the same room with you this late?
What's wrong? What are you doing, Xiao Tian?
Helping you, Guo.
Get back in the car now, young man.
I want to help.
What are you doing?
Helping you push the car.
You're not helping me, you're just sick.
Say this, that personally I took a break, but Dr. Rotich and Dr. David Masanga, doctors are fighting literally here, not literally, but battle of the wits. They didn't take a break. Okay, welcome back. This is People and Politics on
KBC Channel 1. My name is Victor Law. You can send in your questions, your comments, and of course, the tail end we'll be sampling them. And remember, the show continues here, and we're talking about the issue of the president saying that he will not appoint the 6 judges. Now, before I go to Dr. Masanga, let me just cross over to Simeha. And Simeha, now what happens next? Now, is it work cut out for the JSC now to conduct another exercise for the 6 judges? Is this next situation for the JSC?
No, Victor, and I'm organizing, even before I make any other comment, I'm organizing over the way Masanga has misrepresented the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya.
Right.
To challenge him to stop misleading people on this show.
Challenge him. Go ahead and challenge him.
Yes. You have to read that Article 166 with the reason, with the logic, with the intelligence, Matsanga. You cannot pick out just 2B and begin to talk, or just 2, and begin to talk about it away from the entire article. There's a procedure for appointment. 166.1, the president shall appoint A, Chief Justice and Deputy, subject to approval of the National Assembly. B, all other judges in accordance with the recommendations of the Judicial Service Commission. The thing that is called appointment, it's being defined by the Constitution. It's not just sitting at State House and signing on a list. The Constitution gives conditions for that appointment, subject to approval of the National Assembly, that is for Chief Justice and Deputy, and for the other judges in accordance with the recommendations of the Judicial Service Commission. So the people who determine the issues he's raising, degree, holder, experience, integrity, which I agree with him on those, they're there. But there's a process for determining that. It is not the president who determines. It is the process of approval by the National Assembly for Chief Justice and Deputy. It is the process of vetting and recommendation by the Judicial Service Commission. I thought that should not be let go because it is a misrepresentation of the Constitution. It's not in the province of the president to go vetting judges. That is why the Attorney General is a member of the Judicial Service Commission. That is why the president appoints a member to the Judicial Service Commission. That is why the public is represented, law society represented, the courts themselves represented. Those are the people who do the vetting. And Parliament does also the vetting for Chief Justice and Deputy. So I just wish that we speak to citizens or to our viewers from a point of honesty and sincerity. It is not in the province of the president to vet judges. If and when he receives advance information on them, he must hand that information over to the right institution at the right time, to the right institution at the right time, and allow them what the law permits them to do, and let them do that. That's what I think I really have to, if I don't have to say anything else on the show, I think that I have to say that we must respect our institutions. What next? If I'm in the position of the Judicial Service Commission, I would never condemn those judges. I would insist, however long it takes, I would maintain, even if we have credible information on the commission of offenses and integrity issues over these judges, please let us subject them to due process. That would demand that because they were already recommended for appointment, appoint today, and tomorrow, please, file a complaint, provide that information, set up a tribunal. That is, you cannot condemn anybody unheard. That Matsanga who is making those arguments was shouting about Uhuru and Ruto being condemned by ICC unheard, yet they were subjected to due process at ICC. Why do we want to condemn these judges unheard and 2 magistrates? Even if they have committed those offenses, Judicial Service Commission should never relent, because they are not doing this as individuals. They are doing this for citizens who have delegated the sovereign power to them as an organ of the state, of the Republic of Kenya.
Okay.
So members of Judicial Service Commission must maintain their maintain fidelity to their oath of office, that they do what they do on behalf and for citizens of the Republic of Kenya. And no citizen should ever be condemned unheard.
Okay. I believe it is my turn.
Go ahead.
I read J.A. Bright. I don't know whether Smeha knows J.A. Bright. And I understand English language so well. J.A. Bright, you must have read Ogundipe. So you who read Ogundipe first, Sus, let me tell you, I have not disregarded the Constitution of Republic of Kenya. I understand it very well. Commonwealth law, the common law, there's a difference between the common law and the international law. Look, you are talking about ICC, which does not use the common law, which is the Commonwealth where we are set from Britain. Please, there's separated those. Ours is a common law in Kenya. That's why we are Commonwealth, and we use the Queen's law. We copy from them, not the international law of bringing Uhuru and Ruto in ICC. Point number 2, Semeha speaks exactly like what he is. Actually, he is an NGO. I'm not NGO. So therefore, I will speak from the bottom of my heart what I know. The Constitution of Republic of Kenya, Mr. Semeha, Article 166, gives the president 2 names of people to choose for the Chief Justice. Parliament of Kenya.
That's a lie.
How many names were sent?
1 name.
No, wait. When you talked, I kept quiet. How many names were sent to the president recently? 1 name. Are you sure? Victor, help us here.
All right. Continue, Dr.
How many names were sent?
Time. Right.
How many names were sent? The president chooses among the list to choose the Chief Justice.
That is not in the Constitution.
No, wait.
That is in the Act of Parliament.
Okay. Now, the Act of Parliament empowers the president to choose. Now, the president chose Madam Lady Martha Koome. Was there any complaint from Kenya? Many Kenyans who made a complaint. Some of you, like NGOs, said, oh, the marks were lower. Don't think like other people. Think like you, man, I respect you. 2, the Constitution said the judges will be appointed upon the JSC has done its job. And I agree with you, Semeha. I would agree with you. The problem is not the president. The problem, and you have, both of you, Rotich and Semeha, you have actually gone where I was going. It is the JSC that the people of Kenya should be looking for and get their, whatever their problems and their anger. Because the JSC was headed by a man who did not like the president. But the JSC was given information.
Okay.
Now,
so the question is, question is now that the president rejected the 6 names, so should the JSC go back to the drawing board and bring and vet 6 new judges and forward to the president for appointment? What's now next?
Now, my brothers, we should be looking for suggestions like that. I'm going to answer for you very nice. It is true, the JSC has to look for other names because they erred. And Lady Martha Koome has said she was not part of it. But she wants the judges to come to court. If these 60 judges feel, let's not talk on their behalf. If they feel their rights have been infringed on,
yes,
the same court they sit in, they can go back and sue the state. Why are you bothering with people who have already been mentioned and appointed out? You go back to court. You are talking of following rule of law. Why are you pointing fingers again? Semeha pointing fingers, even hating me for nothing when I'm his friend. Let the judges go back to court if they feel their rights have been infringed on.
Okay.
And ask why their names are not there. Okay. But as we stand now, let me finish on this, sir. You gave all my friends time.
You have 30 seconds, Shari. You have 30 seconds, please.
Yes, as you stand now, Victor, the case is finito. If they still maintain to stay there, finito. The president says he will not. The JSC can bring more judges. The president will fill the gaps. It is a matter of Odunga and Dr. Joe to start to find that evidence which can be declassified.
Yes.
Declassified.
Thank you.
And Semehan, you know that.
Okay, thank you.
Declassified.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. I think to this end we can categorically say that we have followed up our story. We have been talking about this for the last 1 month, since for 2-3 weeks now, since the issue started. And yesterday, the president said that he's not going to appoint the 6 judges because of his conscience. He's very clear on that. It's not about him. It's not a personal initiative, but it's for the good of the country, if I can paraphrase what the president said. So, gentlemen, let's just leave it at that. We are, of course, going to follow it up. Of course, we have got so much to happen, whether JSC will have a sit-down, the judiciary will also have a sit-down, and we'll have to see what will happen. So, gentlemen, let's just flip pages now, and let's talk about the issue here. Yesterday, IEBC Chair Wafula Chebukati said that come next general election, all contestants will have a university degree. Now, as it stands right now, we, in the past, we've had cases of petitioners going to court accusing certain candidates or even leaders of fraudulently getting university papers just to run for an election. Let me start with you, Simeha, before I come to you, Rotich, on this case, because I will quote you as well. As you said last week that I will hold that. You are eyeing for a political seat somewhere in the county of Vihiga. How will this go down with the candidates or with the people who are contesting for 2022?
Thank you, Victor. I think and I know that it's extremely important for us to keep setting certain minimum standards for people who we elect or appoint to serve in public office.
Yes.
And we have to keep pushing those standards up. Earning a university degree should just be one of the minimum standards. And I hope you heard me. I have used the word earning a university degree to be just one of the minimum standards. You know, it's important because management of public affairs is such a heavy load, and it's affairs of everyone in the nation. It's not private affairs, and yet we have people who barely understand what is put before them in Parliament, that is National Assembly or Senate, or in the county assemblies. Those are the county parliaments. People who barely understand the numbers, the figures, the facts put before them, and they purport to represent citizens. I know people will argue about leadership and wisdom not coming with the classroom education. Unfortunately, it's not just about wisdom. It is also about dealing with the hard facts and figures in the management of public affairs. So it's important that we only have MCAs who have legitimately earned, not acquired, earned degrees, university degrees, as a bare minimum, plus other conditions, of course, to demonstrate that they have capacity to comprehend the management of public affairs. I give you an example. I've heard you talk about my county. When we've talked about suspension of the county government of Vihiga, you have a whole of barely literate MCAs who are talking about dissolution. They are saying that, oh my God, they want to dissolve our county. We will have no county. Look, Victor, the reason is they don't understand. They do not know the difference between suspending a county government and dissolving, which you cannot do it. There's no provision for it, dissolving a county. Why? Because they are barely literate. With all due respect to everyone who hasn't gone to school for this or that reason, people who are entrusted with the management of public affairs must be subjected to a minimum standard of competence, literacy that comes with a certain level of education. Now, I will again finish by talking about earning this degree. Yes. I know of people who are in the Senate, they are senior senators, well-respected. I know people who are governors who have never earned a degree, but they hold degree certificates. You know, those are among the useless idiots I was talking about a few weeks ago. And it's a tragedy, and Chebukati talked about it. A country of fake degree papers. People who never sat in any classroom. I know even of people higher than Senate in this nation who have very high degrees that they never earned, they never stepped in classrooms. So this should just be a bare minimum, but we must push as a country to have a character of integrity in the management of public affairs, including our bare minimum qualifications. So I'm glad that Chebukati has reminded everyone that now that law is coming into effect. Anyone who wants to run for elective office in Kenya must have a sincerely, fairly, and honestly earned university degree.
Thank you. Thank you, Smeha. Let me come back to you, Rotich. You're a doctor. You're a medic. You're a doctor. You have your papers right. Do you support the issue of the bare minimum that Smeha is talking about? The IBC chair talked about it, because as he's saying that in, matters legislation, there are certain hard issues to be debated. And one, perhaps a candidate doesn't have credible papers, that it becomes so hard even to debate some of these matters when they come to the floor of the House.
I think, looking by experience, or rather going by the past experiences alone, leadership has never been, according to the papers or the number of papers that somebody has or the number of degrees that somebody has. When we talk about leadership, go to our rural setup. There are people who have done a lot of good work by leading others to do. That is what it's all about, leadership. You are able to lead a community, you are able to lead a club, you are able to lead a ground to do something that is beneficial to the people. In this case, if we have to go by degree or law, I can say the people who have really mismanaged this country are not those who are low in degree, are not people who are not very qualified. These are the brains, these are the intelligent lot. And they have ruined this country as professionals. The kind of theft that we are witnessing in this country is not a theft that was done by somebody of a Form 4 caliber. These are people who are skilled professionals. So in this case, when it comes to leadership, I totally disagree the issue of leveling people according to the degree. What we can say, the minimum one can have is a Form 4 certificate. And this is somebody who is already equipped. He has information, he has enough language to communicate. Because, the bare minimum is if you are able to communicate in English, in Kiswahili, and maybe your own mother tongue. So in this case, the issue of the degree, actually, I look at it as part of, it is a corruption. It is part of the corruption cases that we are seeing in this country. Because when you pass somebody who is qualified, who is a leader by birth, who has wisdom, who has knowledge, he knows how to manage his own people. And you say, now you need to have a degree to qualify to be like this. I totally disagree.
My question is to you here is that you are a Form 4 leaver, all right?
Yes.
You went through, the 844, but not fully. And here comes the situation, you are a representative of the people, your constituents, and you're sent to Parliament to debate on matters budget, matters national intelligence, matters national security, and you're not able to articulate these issues properly. So do you say that Form 4 or a degree does not come in handy in this situation?
No, what I'm just saying, the minimum, of course, your qualification should actually go along with the position that you are seeking. In this case, if you are going for a member, if you want to become a member of Parliament,
yes,
that means you'll be able, you need to be somebody who will be able to debate on harder issues. You need to have a whole web of information. And you cannot get that information without reading widely, or rather without having qualified to some level. So what I'm saying, I'm regarding the issues to do with the MCAs. MCAs are within our villages. MCAs are within our localities. These are people whom you should not demand from them a degree for them to contest. So what I'm saying, we have to categorize. Right. If you are vying for a position of an MCA, member of the county assembly, the degree is not very important. What you need to have is a Form 4. These are people. In fact, these are places where even people, discuss their own issues in the language that they can easily understand. That is why we have developed the whole process. At the local level, they are able even to speak in their own mother tongues. So in this case, at the national level, where we have the national exam, a degree is actually what I also recommend. And of course, any other qualification apart from the degree. So in this case, what I'm saying, Satolo, we have had people in the past. You talk of the former head of state, His Excellency, the late Troy Teacher Arap Moi.
Yes.
How many degrees was he having? Yet he led this country for many years than even those who have qualified. So in this case, I don't want us to bring a degree because it will be a punishment. Even to the lords who have really contributed a lot at the lower ebb, of our leadership. So in this case, I think at the lower level, MCA level and the down level, they should have at minimum Form 4 certificate.
All right.
And then for those who are actually eyeing for the parliamentary seat, because they are more, they should be more informed, and they should their scope of discussion actually is more wider. I mean, a degree, the position or a degree level is actually required. So in this case, it should not be a hard thing. It should not be brought as as if it is a punishment. How about those leaders who have led for a long time and they have been very successful, even in business, without even a single degree? How can you equate them?
You're talking about MCAs and they should be having degrees and all that. I'll come back to you. Of course, Simeha just talked about some MCAs in Vihiga County who are not able to distinguish between to dissolve a county government and to suspend a county government. Whether they have got requisite education to that, I will ask Simeha in a short while, but let me rope in Dr. Masanga in this. Daktari, what is your take? Are we likely to see fire now starting to blaze ahead of 2022 as some would say that they are now rushing to graduate and to acquire degrees so that they can run for these positions? Daktari.
Thank you very much. On this one, I tend to agree with Rotich. And then a bit of it, a quarter, with Dr. Simeha.
I love the way you put it, a quarter.
A quarter, yes.
Okay.
Because why I agree fully with Rotich.
Yes.
Tools, what is education? Education is to earn tools of analysis. Simeha, tools of analysis. Tools of analysis. It doesn't matter when, where, but you must have tools of analysis. That will help you to live longer, to adjust, and have, above all. And I told you I will catch you. All of you, I've caught you now. Higher moral character, integrity. Have you seen where things come? You can have 200 degrees with no moral character. You're a rapist. Can you go to parliament? Rotich, you see now how Rotich, you are agreeing with me now? You can have 2,000 professorships, but you go on beating up people violently. You lose your degrees. So education does not mean, to have a degree does not mean that's the end of it on planet Earth. No, you can, that's why chapter 166, which is Mayor refused, says on top of a degree, you must have integrity. You must have moral character. Hey, you don't go on beating people on the streets and then you are appointed as an MP. You must have moral character. And that is why I am saying I agree with Rotich on this. And a quarter of my dear brother from Vihiga. You know why? And, the word and. I told you I would teach you some English, J. Ebright. And somebody who has earned a degree, not who has procured. There is a procurement. Going to the streets, we Ugandans have that English, procured. You know, I brought that word procured.
Doctor, one second. One second. Let me just cut you short there. We are talking matters education, and you are informed that CS Professor George Dagoha is already at the selection, talking at the selection of Form 1, selection at the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. And I think we just need to cross over to there, but I'll be good enough to just end this show at this particular point. Allow me to do that because we're going live to that. Thank you for your time, gentlemen. We will continue this discussion. Daktari, I promise to start with you next week.
No problem.
Thank you so much for understanding. Dr. Joseph,
thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That is Dr. David Sanga and Joseph Simeha, and we have Dr. Joseph Rotich with me in studio. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's cross over to KICD and listen to what CS Magoha is saying. Good morning.
But when they are complicit, I have been doing a quiet study And the parents themselves are paying money which they know is irregular. How do you then deal with it? I want to finally say, before I go to the parents should take their obligations very seriously. I want to urge our parents, of whom I am one, that our children don't need money. They need our time. They need our time and love. The 24 hours you have in a day, have you spared even half an hour to sit with your child alone? This is causing a lot of stress among the children. So if you don't give your child the time, somebody else is going to give her the time. Are we together here? So it doesn't make sense making noise, oh, pregnancy, teenage pregnancy. You are the one who is causing it as the parent. Because the child will listen to you first. The child will listen to you first. You empower the child to know that her body is a temple, and most of the men are hyenas. It is true. It is because you see, how do you look at a child whom you are teaching in the class? Hiyo inatoka kwa kichwa cha nani hiyo? Yes. And I have no apologies to make. It is true. So a child who is less than 13 years and the body has developed, therefore you are telling her, come and open your legs for me. Are you not a hyena? In fact, worse. P.S. you are making noise, but it is true. So I hope you take time to look at your grandchildren yourself or your children. Before I move very quickly to the Form 1 selection, I want to talk about school infrastructure again here. We thank the government and of course our Co-Committee of Education chaired by Florence Mutua for helping us to get 4.2 billion for infrastructure. It's not enough, but it's good, it's better than nothing. The reason I'm talking about this here is that we have again got 1.9 billion Kenya shillings for chairs and desks in primary and secondary school. As we move towards the transition, which unfortunately may not find me here, we want to be sure that everything is ready. So as soon as this money is ready once again, everybody in the field, I see Dwale is looking at me, everybody in the field must ensure that the desks are made. I hope the prototypes have not been sold. They are in the county commissioner's offices. They are still there. We are going to do exactly the same thing. But what we are, and I'm glad Professor Chege found time to come, we have now to prepare for CBC because Chege has to identify, she's working, in fact I don't even know how you got here because you're supposed to be in another place. You are supposed to identify very quickly those primary schools that you want us to make junior secondary schools, so that as we make the desks, they go to those primary schools which are likely to be junior secondary schools, so that the headache now becomes just adding one more classroom. As for the secondary school desks, all secondary schools will have junior secondary schools. That is already agreed. So these desks shall be delivered, I hope through less pain than we had this time. Because here there is no, hakuna ile inatoka nje. It's in a truncated pipe. We made 625. Maybe the number will decrease just a little because of the market issues, but it can be done. 625,000. And I hope that people like Nur Hassan will be ready to go again to Turkana and Mandera to ensure that the schools there are also affected and everybody else. So we want to thank the government for that honor. I want to focus now on 2021 selection, which is what we are waiting for. Of the 1,179,192 candidates that sat KCP examinations, 1,000,000 171,625 have been placed in secondary schools. This is after excluding inmates, overage candidates, and candidates from refugee camps. Therefore, we have placed all candidates in secondary schools in keeping with 100% transition in public schools. The beauty of this, and that's why I invited the other people from international schools and the other schools to be here, people like Ndoro and Mudeo Kasanga, they have a capacity of about 70,000. So that is a safety valve. But we have placed every child in a government school. For those very senior government people who can afford, for example, to take a child to Kabarak, why don't you take your child there instead of saying, displace this junior, displace this one, and put mine there? What are you doing with your money? What exactly are you doing with your money? Take your child to Strathmore. They are very excellent, including other excellent high-cost private schools where I took my son, represented here by that young lady there. Next, I now forget, Jane Mwangi. So instead of saying, now, you must give me allowance, why don't you go and take your child to another school and pay for it? So that you leave the chance to somebody from the slums who has earned that place. I'm challenging the people. And for me, after here, I'm going to switch off my phone. So don't even bother looking for me. I hope you are persuaded. In the selection, we have strictly applied the principles of equity, fairness, merit, transparency, inclusiveness, and affirmative action in placing candidates to each school category. And that's why this placement has taken a little bit longer, and I wish to apologize to the Wananchi, but you see it is better to give a thorough job done a little bit later. Now the national school category, and let me just say that the girls are more than boys. So it is time now to start focusing on the boy child. We have got 585,942 girls compared to 585,323 boys. At this rate, I don't know what's going to happen next year. So we must start pitching the tent for the boy also. Since the girl is the receptacle, we will still have to ensure that we carry the girl to school, because some of them may have already been confused now. Whether they are pregnant or not, we are taking them to school. In national schools, girls that are admitted there are 17,406, boys 18,848, total 36,254. SNE girls 536, boys 1,291. I would like to ask my handlers to find out whether could there be girls with SNE that we are not picking from the population. This difference is very big. Total 1,829. Extra county schools have taken girls 95,646, boys 105,431. Total 201,077. County schools, girls 115,325, boys 98,266. Total 213,591. Sub-county schools, girls 357,029, boys 361,487, total 718,516. Totals I've given you. In the placement, the majority of candidates who scored 400 marks and above were placed in the national schools or extra county schools of their choice. Special needs candidates were also placed in regular schools of their preference, while others were placed in special schools based on their disability categories on merit and choice. Affirmative action in slums. Ladies and gentlemen, due to the wisdom of His Excellency the President, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, in this year's selection we have applied affirmative action to slums. We moved a notch higher by applying affirmative action provision by opening opportunities for a number of children from slums and informal settlements. Through this, we managed to place an additional 667 learners from slums in urban areas and urban and informal settlements in national and extra-county schools. The slums identified under this arrangement were from Thika, Nyeri, Kisumu, Nairobi, Mombasa, Nakuru, and Eldoret. And for those who are thinking tribally, totally disabuse your head, because when I visited the slum in Kiandutu in Thika, I found a Kisi girl there, I found a Kalenjin boy there, I found a Jaluo girl there, I found a Luya boy there. A slum is like a small Kenya. But I know most of you will think, oh, why have they not put a slum in Kanyanyaini, where I come from? A slum has everybody. And for now, we have applied this intervention in line with the directive of President Uhuru Kenyatta's rallying call that we consider needy and valuable children in informal settlements will go a long way, as you have seen that even children with low marks, like you saw the boy in Bomet who had 191 marks and had a thatched hut in the backyard. He's going to university, and he's the one who will lift his family from that cycle of poverty. During the selection, we noted a number of issues that require concerted efforts to address to ensure that all future KCP candidates are able to get opportunities to study in secondary schools. During the selection, it has come clear to us that a big number of candidates do not receive proper guidance and direction, and I'm going to plead with both the TSC directors of education in the field and my own directors to encourage the teachers to explain to the children. For example, there's a school in Western Kenya where everybody just applied to the same schools in the same sequence. That was a total waste of time, because in order to provide equity, there's no way you can take that school class and take it to Alliance and say, now this, instead of this being a school X in Western, now this is Alliance High School. It will not work that way. So please take time to educate the children, because I hope the confusion is not coming from someone. We're dismayed by one school whose almost entire class candidates selected the same secondary school and in the same order. This act, which borders on carelessness on part of the school, made many of the candidates to miss their preferred schools, because it is impossible to select more than 5 learners from the same primary school. And it works this way. If you have given your first choice to a school you are definitely not going to, when they look at your second choice, there are so many people who have applied to that school as first choice, so they will not take you. We wish to call upon head teachers and parents, those parents who can, to ensure candidates make wise choices through proper advice. I also direct my relevant ministry officials to mount proper sensitization programs to Form 1 selection process. Competition for top schools is ridiculous. Further, we noted that there were some secondary schools that attract far many applicants. Is the head teacher of Nanyuki High School here? Simama waone wewe vizuri. Turn around, let him see you. Now, that school had 154,524 applicants. and I don't even know the school, so I will come to see you. Kabianga, the teacher of Kabianga, not here. Kabianga had 142,000 applicants for 480. Pangani Girls is chronic, 124,000 for 384. Is the principal here? Oh, clap for her. Another strange one is Nyandarua High School. Nyandarua High School, 123,000 for 288. Of course, Alliance Girls is not 105,000 for 384. That would be expected. Maseno School, 104,000 for 528. Nakuru High School, 100,000 for 336. Kapsabet Boys, 95,000 for 384. I could go on and on. Butere, let me go up to number 10. Butere, from my home, 94,000 for 432. And let me stop by Mboni, 93 for 240. I think there is need for our teachers to educate the teachers that the best schools are not just the few that you are applying to. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult. And that's why it is going to be difficult to interfere with this. So we trusted the computer, having fed it with all those actions. And the computer doesn't have a father, doesn't have a mother. Sindio? Okay. Reporting dates, ladies and gentlemen, let us continue to pray strongly that God should continue to give us his mercy and grace and boldness, that we continue to run the schools the way we are running them. I'm glad that I have not had any pressure from Parliament, and I want to thank you for it, because if I have pressure from Parliament, I don't have enough time to think of how to move forward. All in all, the Form 1 students will open school on the 2nd of August. And that's another reason why I called the stakeholders here today, so that it doesn't look like it is something I've made on my own. The 2nd of August is the date. If somebody has an issue before we break, you let us know. Due to the COVID situation, parents are asked to visit their respective county directors for any assistance. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude my remark, I wish to announce that this year's Form 1 selection is fully computerized, right from the national to the sub-county schools. Don't ask me why we have done so. As such, there will be no selection of Form 1 candidates at sub-county level, as has been the case in the past. We have tried in this process to deal with problems that we expect. For example, last year we had a child in Kibera who was taken to a day school in Kisii because Nairobi, Kina Mutheo Kasanga have refused to open high schools in Nairobi. The private sector have refused to open high schools in Nairobi. So we had an extra 38,000 children to ensure that they are given schools. And this is because everybody is, let me not say making money, it is easier to do primary. So the private sector is doing primary. And then it's like a pyramid. After the primary, we are moving towards a pyramid at the top. So we have tried our best to ensure that no child is given a day school which is too far. We are just asking the teachers that you shall take all the children you are given. Government is with you, and we will support you in every way possible, as we shall be moving around to ensure that if any school requires any extraordinary measures, we shall deal with it. Candidates, parents, or guardians can now access joining instructions that are available online for all categories of schools through the ministry's www.education.go.ke. You can also check the results by texting the candidate's number only to 22263. Schools will access and download their selection lists by logging onto NEMIS. With these remarks, ladies and gentlemen, honorable members of Parliament and Senate, I now wish to declare the 2021 Form 1 selection, placement and admission process based on 2020 KCPE examination candidates officially launched. Thank you and God bless you.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Mrs. Iyer, what you're saying is... I mean, from now on, you better cut all contacts with Xiao Ai.
In the same room with you this late?
What's wrong? What are you doing, Xiao Tian?
Helping you, Guo.
Get back in the car now, young man.
I want to help.
What are you doing?
Helping you push the
You're
car.
not helping me, you're just sick.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Max is your brother.
He's not. He's my stepbrother, and that will not stop me from erasing him from my life, Mother. Don't tell me you're going to stop me now.
Oh, yes,
Come on,
yes,
now.
I do.
Anything suspicious?
No, fortunately nothing, but we shouldn't get careless.
No.
That means the girl that Jorge is in love with is Juliana.
I'm sorry, Mother, but your son has to die, too.
Thank you very much for coming here for this event. This event was launching of the broadcasting rights for KBC for the World Rally Championship, the WRC Safari Rally for this year, 2021. Therefore, every Kenyan is going to be able to have an opportunity to watch every step and every action that is going on the rally. It's a great time for us. We're very excited that after 19 years, the rally is actually back here in Kenya. The President has put a lot of effort to ensure that this has happened, as well as the Ministry of Sports under CS Amina Mohammed, to make sure that we're going to see this great event come back to our country.
Welcome back. We are glad you are still with us. If in case you are just joining us, karibu tena sana to the program. This, as always, is Good Morning Kenya. I am Jane Mamboy. Now, from that particular press briefing by the CS there, I'm sure if you missed anything, you can be able to log on to www.education.gov. And also, if you are a parent, all the information in regards to the Form 1 selection process, you can find that on NEMIS. Go ahead and just log in and you'll be able to find all the information that you need in case your child was a candidate during the 2020 KCPE exams. Now, we move on to the next conversation, and this is all about what will be happening tomorrow. Tomorrow being the 16th day of June, we will be celebrating the International Day for the African Child. This is the day that is celebrated every year to just look at the challenges that our African children are facing and how we can always make sure that we are progressing as opposed to regressing when it comes to these age-old problems that we have been dealing with. In studio this morning, I have two guests with me who are going to be helping us better put this conversation into perspective. I'll start with the only gentleman with us in studio this morning. From the previous conversation, all men, now we have women running here. But the only gentleman with us on set, he is Mr. Alex Wamakobe. He is the Assistant Director of the Children's Service Station at the National Council for Children's Services. Good morning.
Morning, Jen.
Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
And the other lady with me on set, she is Pauline Kedogo Enubi, who is the SOS at Children's Villages, Kenya. Good morning, Pauline.
Good morning.
Thank you for making time to be with us today.
Thank you.
Remember, you can also be part of this conversation. We are using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. At KBC Channel 1 is our official station handle. My handle is at Jane Mboy. Questions, comments, clarifications, we welcome them. We'll be addressing them as we continue with this conversation. So let's just dive right into it. You know, when we talk about the Day for the African Child, people would think ni siku ya kuvaa vitenge, you know, I'm an African child, I will adorn my African regalia, without really understanding the history behind this day. So let me start with you, Pauline. You know, when we talk about the Day of the African Child, where did it originate from?
Okay. Thank you very much, Jane, and I'm happy to be here just to pass information on this day. And basically, as we look at the theme today, it takes us back to looking at the African child and the rights of this African child. So it takes us back to South Africa in 1976 when we had the uprising, and the children went on the streets to actually demonstrate and protest in issues related to access to education, the very conversation that you're actually trying to have today. So this day is commemorated because of those children who went on the streets to actually advocate for their rights to education. And the African Union, which was then the Organization of African Union, came together in 1991 to actually recognize this day. So when we look back, we are asking ourselves, what have we done as the African continent to ensure that children within the African continent are able to access their rights? And we take stock of that and look at the challenges that these children might be experiencing, and also celebrate some of the key milestones that we've actually been able to ensure that these children are able to access these rights. Absolutely. So the history is tied to the protests on the streets, access to education, but it also unpacked an opportunity for the African continent to place the agenda of the rights of children within the map.
Absolutely. The Soweto uprising, and, you know, as much as it was heavily focused on education, it also brings to light all these other aspects of our children's lives that are violated on a daily. So as we talk about our children's rights, especially when it comes to the education, we want to look at it from a wholesome point of thinking. And let me come to you, Alex. You know, just looking at us as a country, because again we have to take stock of how far we have come. We're not just looking at the problems. We have gained, we've made traction over the years. So looking at us as a country, just bringing it down to Kenya, how are we faring when it comes to our children's right? Maybe just give us a status update on how we are doing.
Thank you so much, Jen, and happy to be on board.
Absolutely.
To discuss this important day to us as a government. It's quite an important day because as Pauline has said, we commemorate the Soweto massacre. But we don't just commemorate it, but we also celebrate the dignity of the African child.
Absolutely.
Knowing that the child is quite an important person to us. And for the country, as a country, the child is quite key. Kenya has made a lot of strides as far as child protection is concerned, and I think along the interview we'll be able to enumerate so many things that is done along the way.
All right.
Yes, in different aspects.
Yes. Maybe you could also add to that, Paulino, just from where you stand, especially with the children's village, you're in touch with the children a lot, you know, and you can be able to even get to hear from them, you know, what they feel they are benefiting. Because, you know, sometimes we tend to look over our children's opinions because they are children, you know, we speak for them. But looking at over the past 3 decades, how much have we moved forward when it comes to our children's rights?
Yeah. So thank you very much. And just to echo what Mr. Wamakobe has actually stated is that first of all, we have to appreciate the fact that in Kenya we have a robust policy and legal framework that speaks to the rights of children. So we are looking at the Constitution, for example, that talks about the rights of children enshrined under Article 53, and the other provisions within the Bill of Rights, the functions of the county and the national government, amongst others. And then we also have other laws that specifically talk about the rights of children. For example, when it comes to education, we have the Basic Education Act. We have laws that speak to sexual abuse, amongst others. So we do have these policy frameworks. We have national plans of action for children. We have guidelines in place. We have standard operating procedures. And definitely even with the court system, when the Chief Justice usually comes up with directions of practice. So all this provide us with a framework on how we are supposed to engage children from the policy front. Absolutely. And then, of course, the government has come up with different systems and structures. For example, Mr. Amakobe, who works at the Council for Children's Services. We also have the Department of Children's Services that is, has the mandate to come up with child-friendly programs. Yes. The Council, on the other hand, comes up with policies, the child-friendly policies, and conducts monitoring, amongst other issues. Then we also have spaces for children to participate within the Kenyan context as part of the progress. Yes. We have platforms such as the Children's Assemblies. We have the Child Rights Clubs, where children are able to air their views, voice their concerns, and even participate on issues of development within the country. And then, of course, as we progress, we are also looking into allocation of resources by the government. For example, a few days ago, the budget was read. The allocation of these resources towards the Department of Children, towards the Council, towards the Child Welfare Society, issues related to social protection, amongst others. So we've made progress on that front. And over the years, there's also the issues related to coordination between different stakeholders. Yes. So we have the ministries, we have the departments, we have the agencies, we have civil society organizations, we have the media, the role played to ensure that we raise awareness on the rights of children. So in terms of progress, this is how far we have come. And definitely, as we continue with the conversation, we'll continue to pick some bits and pieces of what we've been able to do and some of the areas where we actually need to improve on.
I like the fact that you've mentioned, it's not a one-man job. Yeah. Multi-stakeholder responsibility comes into it plays a huge role when it comes to rights of our children. And I just want us to look at the past 1 year, because, the past year or so has taught us so much as a global population. When the pandemic hit, everything was just turned upside down. And as we celebrate all these milestones that we have made over the years, there's still some areas that, we ought to do better. And I just want us to just look at some of those challenges that we are facing, and more so our children are facing when it comes to their rights. And we're living in a time where violence against children is reported on a daily. Just the other day, there's the abduction of Chantal, a case that is still ongoing. Almost every day, let's just put it at a week, there's no week that has passed without a case involving a child being reported. Remember when the pandemic hit, cases of sexual violence just blew off the roof. Now, I want us to look at some of these challenges and just maybe what we can do as a population to help alleviate them and move forward, in as much as the pandemic just brought a whole other reality. And let's just start with sexual violence. And even per what the judiciary put out is that most of the sexual violence cases that were reported, the perpetrator was someone within a very close, almost family to these children. Let me start with you, Alex. Looking at the fact that perpetrators, when it comes to sexual violence, are mostly people that children trust, how can we help the situation?
Thank you again, Jen. Maybe before I go, just to add on what Paulina said about the gains that you made.
Yes.
Of what to mention is that we had the Children's Act. We have it, which is still functioning since 2001, and it came into effect in 2002. But now, with the changes in society is dynamic. There are a lot of changes coming up, emerging issues. We are coming up with a children's bill, which will address quite a number of those issues that are basically affecting us as a society.
Yes.
And the bill is in Parliament, and is a prayer that by the end of the year we'll have it pass into law.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now let's come to these challenges, the loopholes that I've just mentioned, in line with making sure that our children's rights are waterproof, airtight. Let me start still with you, Alex. The question of sexual violence and the fact that most of the perpetrators are people that our children trust. What do you think even fuels this in the beginning?
I think, as I mentioned, the society is dynamic. Dynamic, and if you look at it, you're looking at the family, the changes in the societal norms, the traditional values that we had, like we're running away from them.
Yes.
Because it's quite unfortunate that you find an uncle defiling a niece, a stepfather beating up a stepchild. It's quite unfortunate. Unfortunate, and as a government, the government is quite concerned on that. Last year, they launched the Violence Against Children survey, which revealed that 60% of all adults had experienced some form of violence in their childhood. And violence, I'm talking about sexual violence, physical violence, and emotional violence. It's quite an unfortunate state of affair, but as a government, we are coming up with ways and means to address it.
Absolutely.
There are structures in place that really should address some of these things. We have in places reporting mechanisms. Like right now, it's quite easy to report violence. You just call the toll-free line 116, or you can call even the police station 112. They're ready to accommodate that. We have facilities like the DCI, Child Protection Unit, that looks at trafficking against children and also violation of their rights.
Yes.
As a government, we're also expanding the structure on the ground, where right now we have almost children officers in all the sub-counties in the country, which is quite a milestone.
Yes.
From 20 years down the line, when we had only maybe 50 or so. So the response mechanism that the government is coming up is quite strong to address some of these challenges. But that said and done, we understand that as we move forward, there are also challenges that are coming into place. And as she said, we work hand in hand with our partners to try and address some of these challenges.
Okay, now let me come to you, Pauline. I like the fact that you've mentioned, all these avenues that are available, as my mug continues to fall down. These avenues that have been made available, the reporting mechanisms that have also been put in place. Clearly, there's effort that is coming in, especially from the government. But now let's come to us as a people. And I still want to look at that aspect of sexual violence. We are also living in a time where cases involving sexual violence that are within a family setup, you find families choose to settle this outside court, away from the station, and semaini mambo ya familia tutaongelea, and consequently denying this child the justice that they deserve. How can the message be sent to the people to understand that any sexual violence perpetrated against the child, the perpetrator needs to face the consequences regardless of who they are in this child's life?
Okay, thank you very much. And just to echo what Mr. Wamakobe has actually mentioned, and just to make this a reality for us, is to understand that statistically, as we are seated here, every 5 minutes, a child dies as a result of violence.
Every 5 minutes.
Every 5 minutes that we are seated here, there's a child somewhere dying as a result of violence. And as he has expounded on it, physical, emotional, the sexual, psychological, all those. So what we need to do is to raise awareness on these issues. And I'll take us back to last year when we had the status report on children within the justice system. The report was launched by the National Council on the Administration of Justice, Special Task Force on Children Matters. And one of the gaps that you're actually talking about is one of the things that has been highlighted there. Because the moment we seek to ensure that we are dealing with these issues within the family, we are actually denying these children justice.
And protecting the perpetrator.
Exactly. So it means that all the key stakeholders or all the players are supposed to come on board. So we have the family, we have the child, we have the community, we have the legal enforcement officers, we have the judicial officers, we have the children's office, we have the ODPP, we have the judiciary. All these people will have to come together to ensure that this child is able to access justice. When you go back to the Violence Against Children report, on issues related to sexual abuse, you look at it from the perspective of statistics in terms of the ages. We have children below the age of 15, those from 15 and above. And these statistics are very shocking for us. So we need to be aware that some of these things that we are doing will actually affect these children to the point even when they become adults, and it becomes cyclic. So it becomes a cycle of violence.
The violence that was perpetrated on
Exactly.
them, they get to a point in life where they may, it is not always given, but they may also be in a position of power and perpetrate the same.
Yes. So what we also need to do is to ensure that, one, we are actually implementing the findings of this report, the Violence Against Children report. We have that report on access to justice for children.
Yes.
We have also the report when the president was making one of his addresses during this COVID period, he actually ordered for a research to be conducted on the increasing cases of children being abused and domestic abuse within the family. So the report is available by the Crime Research Institute, and some of these findings actually have to be implemented.
Yes.
So putting the mechanisms on board, you know, arresting the perpetrators, ensuring access to justice, you know, in a timely manner, and also ensuring that these children are able to access other services. For example, services related to psychosocial support, counseling, being able to get, you know, the P3 forms, being able to get, you know, medical attention within the shortest time period. And it also speaks to the provisions of Article 53 on the rights of children, because under that there are provisions on fair trial, there are provisions on access to justice for children, and also protecting children from all forms of abuse and violence.
Now, I want us to...
Maybe before you, just to add on what she's saying.
Sure.
As we look at the reactive bit on how to tackle violence against children, you also need to look at what causes it.
Address the root cause.
Address the root cause, and some of these things are quite deep-rooted.
Yeah.
And here I'm talking about the issues of culture, traditions.
Yes.
We are looking at the girl child marriages in society. These are things that we need to address solidly.
Yes.
Because child marriages are deeply rooted in traditions. Attitude change.
Yes.
She mentioned about awareness change. Is quite important that we get the root cause of these problems and tackle it. And as I mentioned, we work hand in hand with stakeholders. There are quite a lot of people talking about the religious leaders. Why do they come in this? The traditional was this on the ground.
The elders, yes. They have a voice.
A huge role to play.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, the other aspect that also, in one way or the other, could be related to culture, and this is all about child labor. You know, when children were reporting back to school, thousands did not go back to school, and more so the boys. Most of the reasons that were given were, you know, economic reasons, not going back to school to be able to help when it comes to fending for the family, and you cannot judge them. But when it comes to child labor, what can be done to just make sure that children do not always have to resort to looking for employment when they are underage, just to be able to help keep their families alive? Let me start with you, Pauline.
Yeah. So on issues related to child labor, and we are looking at 4 days back when we actually commemorated the International Day Against Child Labor. And what we first of all need to do is to ensure that the family is supported to be able to access the basic needs.
Necessities.
So we are talking about social protection within our country. We're looking at the cash transfers, the overseas, the persons living with disabilities, the hunger and safety nets, amongst others. So we need to come up with systems where the family is able to be supported, so that in turn those caregivers can be able to support these children.
And not the other way around.
And not the other way around. We are also looking at access to other basic services, such as education. Education being a right enshrined again within the Constitution, Article 53. So do we have systems that have been put in place to ensure that all children are able to access education, so that they are in school and not on the streets begging, so that they are able to fend for their families.
Okay.
So access to those other basic rights.
Okay.
And then when we are working in the space of collaborating with other partners, for example, the private sector, we have what we call the the business principles related to child rights. So how does the private sector, for example, ensure that it's not engaging children to provide some sort of labor? So for example, at KBC, are we engaging children as the private sector, for example? So this is to ensure that the private sector also comes on board and they are not engaging children within the chain of the labor. So there's also that aspect of collaborating with the other partners.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now, due to the interest of time, I want us to just hasten this conversation a bit, just jump kidogo and look at some of the plans that lay ahead, and especially when it comes to children rights, and especially the Agenda 2040. And that is something that most people have no idea about. And let me just start with you, Alex. You know, when we talk about Agenda 2040, we know about Agenda 2030, matters development of the country, but narrowing it down to our children, when we talk about Agenda 2040, very briefly, what is enshrined in this particular document?
Thank you, Jen, again. It's good to mention, when you talk about Agenda 2040, it's good to mention the theme of this year celebration. Because as we celebrate the Day of the African Child, each year there comes a different theme. Last year we had access to child-friendly justice. And this year's theme is 30 years after the adoption of the Charter. That's the African Charter on the Rights and the Welfare of the Children.
Yes.
Accelerate implementation of Agenda 2040 for an African fit for children. And where it came about, this Agenda 2040 is in 2016, the Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child at the African Union realized the need to come up with clear strategies on how we can restore the dignity of the child. So it came up with 10 aspirations that member states would aspire to meet within the next 25 years from 2016. That's now 2040.
Yeah.
And among them, we have aspiration 1, which talks about the African Charter, Children's Charter itself, as an effective continental framework for advancing children's rights. We have aspiration 2, effective child-friendly national legislative policy and the institutional framework in place.
Yes.
We have aspiration 3, which mentions about every child's birth and other vital statistics being registered. Agenda 4, which talks about every right, or rather every child's right to survive and have a healthy childhood. Agenda 5, which talks about a child growing up well nourished and access to basic necessities of life. And then aspiration 6, which talks about full benefits from quality education. That's for each child. And then Agenda 7 talks about the children being protected against violence, exploitation, neglect, and abuse. And then aspiration 8, which talks about children benefiting from a child-sensitive criminal justice system. Then Agenda 9 talks about every child being free from the impact of armed conflicts and other disasters of emergency solutions.
Yes.
And then lastly, aspiration 10, which talks about child participation.
Absolutely. I love that you've mentioned that, and it's well in line with what we are doing and starting from the house setup. Child participation. It is something that, to some extent, as parents, you're like, I am the parent here. You will not tell me what you need. I know what you need. But if we want to have a truly honest conversation, how can we involve our children in a healthy way when it comes to matters involving them, and especially their rights, in a way that is mostly beneficial to them, and a way that we as the parents, the guardians, and all stakeholders can sustain? Let me hear from you, Pauline.
Okay. Thank you very much. So child participation, first of all, is a basic human right for children. It's enshrined in our constitution again, provisions on public participation for citizens, including children. In Kenya, we have the child participation guidelines that have been were developed in 2008, and they basically provide the framework of how we need to engage and involve children. So participation in this case is providing opportunities for these children to be able to raise concerns on anything that involves them. And Kenya has provided those platforms for children. We have the children's assemblies that are supported by the National Council for Children's Services and the Department of Children's Services. And these assemblies bring children representatives from the county as well as at the national level, where they're able to discuss on different matters that involve them. We've had these children participating in policy reform processes. For example, the Children's Bill. The voice of the child is in that bill.
Yes.
They've given ideas on the kind of country they'd want to see within the bill. Then we also have other platforms within the community, such as the child rights clubs within the schools. So these are spaces provided within the schools where children are also able to sit, challenge on different matters that concern them. And when you also look at some of the policies and laws, such as the Basic Education Act, it actually talks about the board of management, and within that board of management there needs to be a student representative who voices the concerns of children. So what we need to be asking ourselves is, how well are we in terms of providing these platforms? Are they working? Are they effective? Because we've actually had children moving parliament on a number of issues. They do write memorandums, they petition the country through the parliament, and parliament has also been able to respond to them and give feedback to different policymakers. So child participation is a right, so we actually just need to do a bit more and assess, provide children with these platforms for them to be able to engage.
And maybe just to build on what...
And as you build on that, you can also speak on the aspect of awareness now among us, the guardians, the parents, and anyone who is in a position to care for a child. How can we even create awareness in a way that, you know, let's just understand the fact that we are Africans. And with Africans, culture dictates that children will respect and obey parents. It's even enshrined in the Bible. But understanding that they are also humans and we need to also listen to them. You can also add that.
Okay, before I add on to that, maybe just add on what Pauline has mentioned, which is quite important to us, is that as the Council, as the National Council of Children's Services, we are mandated to come up with various policies and guidelines affecting the child. And as we develop the policies, any policy that we develop, we must hear from the children. What are their views? We must include the views of the children, including when the children's bill that now is in Parliament. Children participated quite heavily in it. Now, turning back to your other question,
the question of awareness,
the culture, the family, because I'm sure your concern is within the family. Yes, outside there we have structures where children communicate what happens within the family. I think we need to also look at the dynamics of society. We have evolved from that traditional setup where we used to be with our grandparents, our socials around there. We are now within the house. And as parents, we need to recognize that this child that we are seated with in the house has got rights. The child needs to be heard. Look at a teenager. We need to appreciate that their concerns are valid.
To start with.
They are valid. Whatever they're going through right now is not what we went through. Because many times we tend to think for the child.
Compare our childhood to theirs. These children are spoiled. You know, back in our day, we didn't used to wear shoes.
Not knowing that the kids nowadays have got smartphones. The kids nowadays have internet in the house, and with internet anything is possible.
All right. Now, as I'm being told, we are almost out of time, but before we get to close this conversation, maybe let me start with you, Alex. You know, as we mark the Day of the African Child tomorrow, what will be your message to our viewers, teachers, parents, guardians, and even the government when it comes to observing this day and understanding we all have a role to play?
Thank you, Jen. As we mark the day tomorrow, let's realize that the child is not the concern of the government alone. The child is a government of all, is a concern for all concerned, be it the teachers, be it the parents, be it religious leaders, and each have a role to play.
Absolutely.
And we need to recognize that and take it up. And my concern, especially, is in reporting of child abuse cases. Because many times we turn a blind eye to that. You find a neighbor hears a child crying the next door, the child being abused, they don't report. Why? Because they fear. They fear. I think we need to get out of that fear.
It goes back to awareness.
Absolutely.
All right.
Awareness.
Maybe Pauline, you could also just take less than a minute. Just your call to action message, and especially even to our children. And this does not say that you go declaring to your parents, you know, we had this on KBC, so you must do this and this. As a child, know how to express yourself. But then again, your call to action message to anyone who has a role to play when it comes to the rights of our children.
Okay.
This is your camera right there.
So my call to action, number one, we've talked about the policy frameworks in our country. My first call to action is the enactment of a children's bill, because it provides that platform to deal with some of these issues we are talking about, violence against children, participation, amongst others. Number two, we need to invest in children. Public investment in children. So this speaks to budget allocation, financial human resource allocation towards child welfare programming and child protection programs. And lastly, we need to implement the existing laws and policies. We also need to implement the provisions within the various reports that have already been, you know, disseminated.
All right.
Yes.
That brings us to a close of this particular segment, all about the Day of the African Child, which will be marked tomorrow, the 16th day of June, as has been every year. And the theme for this year is all about 30 years after the adoption of the Charter, accelerate the implementation of Agenda 2040 for an Africa fit for children. What are we doing to just make sure that our Africa is fit for all our children? We have been speaking with Pauline Kedogo, who is the SOS at the Children's Village, Kenya, as well as Alex Wamakobe, who is the Assistant Director of Children's Service Station at the National Council for Children Services. My name is Jen Wamboy. Thank you so much for being with us. Be sure to join us again tomorrow. Have a lovely day. God bless. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.